welcome, Yosh. Today I have a very, very special guest, Yosh Douglas Street. This beautiful woman sitting across the screen from me. And Yosh is going to just first introduce herself, and then we're going to get into a fascinating story. And Yosh's theme on our podcast, From Ordinary to Extraordinary Women Who Lead, is driven. So I'm very excited to hear this story. Yosh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome, Mary, and also for inviting me onto your podcast. My name's Yosh Douglas Street. I have two children, a son and daughter, Leo and Eva, 13 and 10, and I've been in the construction industry now for over 20 years. Currently as an operations director, but when I started all those years ago, I started as a young trainee on a construction site for Multiplex.
Wow, that's very interesting. Okay, so
Mm.
you've gone through the ranks. That
I
is
have,
incredible.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so there's every single part of the business and of being a woman in
Hmm.
this industry, this very challenging industry, um, really makes you understand. You understand everything.
Definitely, yeah. And I'd be lying if I said it was easy. It hasn't been easy. There's been its challenges, obstacles, in addition to, starting having a family and then working alongside having a family and the children growing up, etc. In addition to being a female in a male dominated environment. And I don't want that taken the wrong way in terms of poor me. I'm a female on site and I want everyone to feel sorry for me, etc. I've never been on that page at all. I'm very cautious in terms of um, being a female in construction and champion it, that we are recognised for how good we are, not because we're females in construction. And I think there's quite a fine line between the two. And I've always been, I don't see myself apart from genetically being different to the other lads in the company. And you should be recognised for being good at what you do. And, fortunately throughout my career, that's what I've done and I've been recognised and I am where I am now.
That's amazing. Well, I've been working with women in construction for quite some time now, and I must say, I'm not in the construction business. I'm in the coaching and training, talking business, but I've never met a group of more courageous women than the women in the construction industry
Mm.
because of what they have to face every single day.
Yeah.
And I hope that the narrative can change. And I'd love your opinion on this. Instead of talking about male dominated, because it feels as though the more we say male dominated, it feels like we're creating more domination.
Yeah.
Where if we can change the narrative to industry of opportunity for women,
Yes.
because women are rising to the occasion like never before. And
Hmm.
it's amazing to see this wave of strong women coming through. And I also don't want to say asserting because it's not assertive in the negative way, but asserting themselves, doing whatever it takes, and actually getting the job done, as you said, because of who they are and
Yeah.
because of their skills and their abilities, not as a
Not
token.
correct. Yeah, exactly that. Not because you fall into the category of diversity and inclusion and you're a tick box exercise.
No,
It's
no, no,
because
no.
you are good at what you do and you get recognized for it.
Yes, in this industry of opportunity.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Yosh. Well, I'm really excited to hear your story and why you chose the theme driven. The
Hmm.
whole objective here is that we're creating a platform for normal people to relate to normal people who have overcome and actually achieved excellence
Hmm.
through whatever it took. And the mindset change that goes with it, and the body change, the feelings, the relationships, because everything changes the moment you take that step forward. So I would love to hear your story. Please share with us.
Yeah. So um going back to my trainee days, I actually fell into construction. It was not a career that I specifically went out to do. I was heavily into sport and always have been, played at a high level at secondary school for um, England basketball and district netball and county. So I was always a team player, used to playing team sports, but at a high level. So that mindset was there from the off, I think, where it had been ingrained in me through training, etc. And I'd actually got a sports scholarship into a uni. However, I went traveling, came back, and my whole mindset changed in terms of I don't think this is the kind of route I wanted to go, didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was only that my uncle had a small construction firm, and over the summer he said, "Why don't you come and help me out, earn a bit of money, get you back on your feet, etc." So I did that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved the sites, sort of social as well as working. You're having fun because you're on site, and you're getting stuck in, but also you're instantly seeing a change of what you're producing out on site. So I was doing a bit of decorating with him, and it went from a blank canvas to then you change it into you know involving colours or wallpaper or whatever it may be. So I did that for a couple of years, of which I then started really seriously thinking about the future and, can I do this for the rest of my life? I was settling down with a long-term partner, and we wanted to get a mortgage, etc. Of which I then looked at other avenues in construction because I was enjoying it and I wanted to stay in the construction field, but I wanted to potentially go into management, of which I looked at various courses and then looked at H&D in construction management, enrolled myself into College of Northwest London, and I was working and doing that one day, 2 days a week. And then I luckily got sponsored by Multiplex, where they took me on. So I stopped my decorating and I started with them as a trainee. So I completed my sort of graduate scheme with them after 2.5 years, of which you go through into different, disciplines and sectors within the business. And it was a great learning curve, of which it kind of helps you then decide what field you want to go into. So, you do engineering, quantity surveying, construction management, planning, etc. And I thoroughly enjoyed the management side of it on site. And I was on a project in Knightsbridge, 119 Knightsbridge. It was 200 and odd high-end apartments, and I was involved in the management of that. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So I stuck with construction management, of which then after that I then moved on to Lang O'Rourke, and was with them for 10 years, and just gradually progressed through the ranks with them, but going on various different projects. I worked on the One Hyde Park project, which was a huge, you know, 8-star high-end residential apartment right in the centre of Knightsbridge. And again, thoroughly enjoyed it. Team ethos was a huge thing, which I was, familiar with in terms of sport, etc., social skills. And so, learning, going from different projects, working for different managers, seeing how different skill sets work, different leadership types worked, etc. I've kind of formed my own way. And I'm a great believer in you treat people the way you want to be treated, with respect, and also the way you talk to people. Yes, there does at times need to be a bit of assertiveness and repercussions as a result, but majority of the time, if you speak to people the way you want to be spoken to, you get a lot more out of them, and also treating them like humans. Yes, they're operatives on site, but at the end of the day, we need them more than they need us. They're the ones out there working and delivering our projects for them. And getting to know the workforce on site, I think it's really important that you know people's names and have a conversation with them throughout the day, and it makes them feel valued. So they're not just a number or an operative or, someone else doing whatever position they are, whether it's a cleaner or, an engineer or a brickie or a sparky, whatever it may be. So yeah, I worked with Langs for 10 years. In the mix of that at Hyde Park, I was going through IVF because I couldn't conceive naturally. So that that was a struggle. And I think that's where even more of my drive came from. Although I was and still am heavily driven and motivated, but if you've never been through it or you're not familiar with it, until you go through it yourself, it's a really difficult process, not only emotionally but on your body as well. There's so many, hospital appointments, doctor's appointments, blood tests, scans, etc. in the mix of managing a project in One Hyde Park. It was it was a real juggle as such and struggle. But I continued to drive through it and delivered successfully. And thankfully, I fell pregnant with my son, who's now 13. Um, and then I then went on to work and start with Mace, who I've been with for 10 years now. And again, worked on various different major projects throughout London. My last big one was Battersea Power Station, the redevelopment of that. So generally, I've been on big major projects and used to working in big teams. I do think the sports side of it has helped massively in terms of transferring skills over. You know, being team player, teamwork. You're not gonna deliver the project solely on yourself. You know, it's the operatives out there in terms of that team, but then it's your team in terms of the project base. And I think that hugely helped in terms of where I am now.
It's so interesting. I actually want to go back to um, where you decided to go for IVF.
Mm,
Because obviously you had this demanding career on the one side going on, and then because you're a woman,
yeah,
and most women would love to have children,
yeah,
and this didn't happen for you. So what is it? What is what made you go for the IVF? So what happened in your mind? Because I want to actually see if there's a message that you have, not only a message, but what you've gone through mentally, emotionally, that we can share with other women to give them hope. This is all a
yeah.
story of hope.
Um, I think, and myself included, I naturally thought I could conceive naturally, and it obviously wasn't. It wasn't until we couldn't, and then investigated why, that it then brought it up that we'd have to potentially go down the IVF route. And in terms of timings, there's never a right time. They say to you when you're going to do it, you can't be stressed. You've got to be cool, calm, and collective, and not put too much pressure on it, etc. And I would say probably One High Park was one of the most stressful projects I've been on. Um, but managing it, I did, and I think that's proven that, even if you have got a high profile career and it's stressful and demanding, you can still go through the process and it be successful. It's just a mindset more than anything, and keeping that positive mindset of, just, it is going to work. It's just continuing with that and not letting the negative thoughts drop in is huge.
It is huge. And in terms of support structure, how
Yeah,
did
I
that
mean, family were really supportive, very supportive. And also I did a lot of sort of online reviews of diets and exercises and everything that could help me and the process be more successful. So I was strict in terms of that and foods, what to eat and what not to eat, etc. So I really did do the homework on it and put everything into it to make it more successful.
That's amazing. Okay. And then when it happened, how did it change you as a person where when you had to take this alternative route and then in the end you were holding new life?
Yeah.
What happened? How did that work?
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. The best day of my life. Yeah, in addition to when my daughter was born, but and then becoming a mother and that being magical in itself, although it has its ups and downs, it naturally changes you as a person. And I think, well, they're the priority number one at the end of the day. And yes, your career does take a back seat for a period of time because they are your priority, and you have maternity leave, etc. I do recall though when I was coming back to work, because I was ready to come back to work. I took a full year off, but I was sick of talking about babies, and I felt I lost myself as well, um, because every conversation involved my baby, which was lovely and beautiful and great, but I wanted to find myself again in terms of keeping them quite separate. So after a year, I was ready to go back. And childcare was tricky because me and my husband at the time, we were both working with a newborn, so it was nursery fees, etc. And we were both in construction, so it was long hours and juggling, but we got through it and made it work.
That is amazing. And having gone through this, how do you think it has changed you as a person? Because it was harder for you to
Mm.
create the family. And now that you've got it, what do you think is it left in you?
I I think I definitely am more empathetic in terms of um, understanding from a female point of view, you know, all the behind the scenes that may be going on with various different people. Um, I think before I was kind of like just get on with it, and I'll openly say that. But having been through it myself, um, yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking thinking that potentially I couldn't have children. So when it finally happened, it was the best thing ever. But to get to that point was hard. And for any female that has to go through it, but also similar scenarios where there are issues, body related that they're dealing with day in day out, as well as working in the construct business. I get it. I get it now, and I understand more and everything.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Josh.
Mhm.
Well, if you like me, I'm not perfect. I've made many mistakes.
We all.
Share with us a mess that you made and what you've learned from it, how you fixed it, what were the consequences, how did you get out of it?
Okay, so not so much a mess, but I remember I was on one of my, I think it was, yeah, it was within my first sort of 5 years in management. I was gradually progressing up, and we used to have a weekly meeting with the client, and it was a big project, and there were several of us like construction managers, all with our set, like areas that we manage, and it was a progress update, but also forecasting areas that we were going to hand over going forward. And I naively didn't, I went into the meeting not planning, having not planned anything in terms of notes, etc., and thought I could wing it basically. And I regretted it after because I was scrutinized left, right, and center, which I looked like an idiot, made myself look like an idiot, of which that from that day I learned a very valuable lesson. Never ever go into a meeting unplanned in terms of notes from yourself and forecasts, etc. So it taught me a valuable lesson, but I was very naive to go in thinking that I could wing it.
And I can imagine embarrassed too.
Oh yeah, very, very, very. So
Okay. No,
yeah.
great lesson. Thank you.
Yes,
Josh, do you have some or other quote or saying unique to you that you use every day or that you say to people?
I do. I have a couple actually, and everyone that I've worked with probably will know these if you ask them what my sayings are. And one is everyone has a story. So I'm very much, everyone on site, they're either going through something or they've gone through something or they may be going through something in the future, but everyone has a story behind. And it's whether we recognize their change in behaviors to note that potentially there may be, and I always say that to my teams in terms of we should be, we should know our people enough to recognize when there's a slight change and there might be something going on behind the scenes that they don't feel comfortable opening up about. So that's one. And then the second one is teamwork makes a dream work.
Yes,
And that's
that's
a
lovely.
favorite of mine because, like I said earlier, at the end of the day, everyone's part of the journey to deliver a project successfully. And there's no I in team, definitely not.
Yes. Is it okay if in our training or so can I use your quotes and put your name to it
Yeah,
and
of course you
say
can. Yeah,
Yosh,
that'd be
according
brilliant.
to Yosh, Yosh
Yeah,
says
I'd love that.
that would be
That'd
wonderful.
be fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you, Yosh. And any final message to the women out there?
Yeah, to keep going and nothing is impossible. That look, it's not going to be easy by far, but as long as you put the hard work in, you'll get the returns.
That's lovely. Thank you so much.
No problem. It was a pleasure.